Unfortunately, that's kinda landed him sick in bed with Satsuki under his sheets while his crush cooks porridge for him, clueless about what's going on in there. Meet Watari now, a 16-year-old high school student who pretty much always ends up turning down after-school activities because he's gotta look after his little sister. Of course, that just makes others brand him as a siscon, which isn't exactly great for his reputation. Luckily, Watari's closest friend at this new high school, Tokue, isn't as judgy as the others. Being pretty close to his own family, he gets that Nao's just gotta be responsible for his sister, since it's just them in the family now. Tokue isn't the only one, though, because Watari's crush, Ishihara, knows all about his situation, too. Even now, she's super accepting of him, turning down her invitation to a committee meeting about the school's flower bed. Watari, of course, feels guilty about it, but Ishihara makes it clear that she understands and is totally cool with it. Since they live close to each other, she promises to drop off the notes from today's meeting at his place and walks off. That night, Watari sits with his 10-year-old sister, Suzu, as they eat the omurice he whipped up for dinner. After talking a bit over the meal, Watari's doing the dishes when their aunt walks in to hand him their monthly allowance, plus some extras since they didn't get Suzu a gift for her birthday a little while ago. Said aunt is actually the owner of this house, though Watari has no clue how she's so loaded when she never leaves her room for anything at all. The next morning, Watari's helping Suzu with her hair when something she says reminds him about their parents. Tragically, both of them passed away 2 years ago, leading to Watari and Suzu having to leave their home in Shinsu to be passed from one relative to the next. It's only a month ago that they finally found some stability here with their aunt in a Tokyo suburb. After getting them both ready, Watari walks Suzu to school on their way to his own. While they're walking, Watari tells Suzu to think of a present she'd like for her birthday by the end of the day. Whatever it is, he'll do his best to make it happen. That day at school, Watari's talking to Tokue when his friend mentions a super cute transfer student in the next class to theirs. Unknown to Tokue, Watari recognizes the name of Tachibana Satsuki, and he's less than happy about it. That same day, Watari's on his way home from school when he spots Satsuki stalking him, although it's pretty openly, so I guess it's more following and less stalking. Either way, the chick seems pretty obsessed with him, so Watari eventually stops and turns around to confront her. As it turns out, he remembers Satsuki from 6 years ago, when they used to be friends in his family neighborhood in Shinshu. And for whatever reason, it sounds like, from what he's saying, Satsuki destroyed their family garden there 6 years ago, and he's still mad about it. Pretty sure he's the petty one here for all that, but alright. Anyways, after shamelessly admitting that she's been following him around since the first day she transferred here, and not just today, Satsuki tells him she needs to talk to him about something important. However, when Watari just turns her down, Satsuki pouts at him and asks why he's so mean now when he used to be so nice. Hesitantly, Watari lets out his real feelings, telling her that she's the one who just disappeared out of nowhere. Realizing she's going to have to go even harder to get through, Satsuki catches Watari in a chokehold and tells him she won't let go till he hears her out. Naturally, Watari accepts, only to run away the second she loosens up. Meanwhile, Suzu's walking home when she spots a family taking care of their little vegetable patch. Seeing them bring back a memory of their own family back in Shinshu, and she realizes what she wants as her birthday gift. Right as she does that, Watari comes zooming her way like he's being chased by a pack of hyenas. Or at least one. And her name's Satsuki. Without pausing for even a second, Watari just grabs Suzu and continues racing towards their home. Once they get home, Suzu reveals what she wants for her gift, only for Watari to be stumped. After all, they don't have any land to grow a garden on. Hearing Suzu's complaining from her room, their aunt pokes her head out to tell Watari she can use the backyard. Just one catch, though. He's going to have to clean out all the weeds himself. And so Watari and Suzu head out back to take a look at Jesus Christ. It's practically a jungle back there. Watari's in the middle of assuring Suzu that at least it's worth a shot when a third person enters the yard. As it would happen, Satsuki's chased Watari all the way here. With a gardening tool in hand, she steps forward to approach them, only for Watari to get the completely wrong idea. He just gets in front of Suzu protectively and yells at Satsuki to drop whatever grudge she's got and let them live their lives normally. At this point, Satsuki's had enough of Watari's assumptions and, avoiding her, deciding to take a more nuclear approach. She steps right into his personal space, and with zero warning, shoves her tongue so far down his throat she can taste the omurice from last night. As Suzu, their aunt, and Ishihara, who just came over with some notes, all watch in shock. Watari slowly passes out from a lack of oxygen. The next day, Watari is forced to deal with the consequences of that one-sided makeout. Not only does Aunt think he's a pervert, Suzu's mad at him for having a girlfriend, and Ishihara has no idea what to think. Unable to do anything about the first two, he tries to explain the situation to Ishihara at school at least, only for Satsuki to show up and ruin that as well, specifically by walking up to Ishihara and using her honkers as stress balls while talking about how Watari likes them. Freaking out entirely, Watari grabs Satsuki and races up to the roof to chew her out in peace. But between the stunt just now, the kiss yesterday, and the garden crushing from way back when, Satsuki isn't the least bit guilty. Surprisingly, she instead shows Watari the gardening tool she had yesterday. She explains that the thing's from 6 years ago, and she was trying to return it. For Watari, this just digs up memories of their friendship, how fast they grew close as kids, how much they liked each other, and then how suddenly and out of nowhere, Satsuki destroyed their whole garden and disappeared from his life all in the same day. When he asks her why she did it, Satsuki just says she won't tell him. What she will do is apologize, and if he wants it, she'll do it in some pretty freaky ways too. Thrown for a loop, Watari tries to change the topic and gets mad at her for kissing him in front of Suzu instead. When he asks just why she'd do that though, Satsuki's expression becomes frustrated and angry. Before he can say anything else, she just tells him it doesn't matter if he doesn't even know and storms away. That evening, Watari's walking home in depression over the fact that Ishihara hasn't looked him in the eye all day. Already upset as he is, when he spots Satsuki holding up a lightly injured Suzu, he crashes all the way out, claiming that he'll protect her no matter what. Unfortunately, this just embarrasses the crap out of his sister, who Satsuki was actually helping after she tripped and scratched her knee. Oh, and she remembers Satsuki from back in the day now, so she's cool with them hanging out. And also, the trio walk home together where they find Ishihara waiting for Watari. To his shock, Ishihara asks him to go shopping for the school's garden tomorrow, almost as if to wingman him. Satsuki tells him that she'll help Suzu with the garden tomorrow, so he can go ahead. Though he's surprised, Watari jumps on the chance, and the two end up on a kinda not really date the next day. Unfortunately for Watari, he's too much of a wuss to actually confess his feelings, and only manages to explain that Satsuki isn't his girlfriend. When they finish up with their shopping and head outside, Watari's ambushed by Suzu, who couldn't stop herself from coming to see what he's doing without her. After Watari calms her down with a mini gardening tool he bought for her, Ishihara smiles at them and tells him she'll handle the materials from here. After thanking her, Watari heads home with Suzu, who lets it slip that Satsuki was actually the one who brought her here. Once they're home, Watari heads to the backyard while Suzu shows their aunt her new tool. When he gets back there, though, he finds Satsuki waiting to welcome him home. Her appearance dragging up feelings he's had bottled up for 6 years. Stunned, Watari unable to say much even when Satsuki teases him about the date he was on and jokes about wanting to go on one with him too. As far as Watari can tell, she's just messing with him, and he never wants to feel the way he did back then again, as if to make things even harder for him, if you catch my drift. Satsuki suddenly starts changing her clothes right out in the open, in his loud attempt to stop her out of embarrassment. However, they end up falling to the ground in an extremely sus position. And what do you know? The super strict aunt walks out to see them at that exact moment. Yeah, he's screwed. As you'd expect, seeing the kid she's helping out getting freaky in her backyard really ticks off Nao's aunt. After a split-second crash out, she slams the door on her way inside, seeming completely furious as she goes. While Nao gets depressed and prepares to be homeless again, Satsuki apologizes for the screw-up and tells him she'll explain the misunderstanding to his aunt. Of course, he knows that's just going to complicate things more, so he tells her not to do that. Instead, he pushes down the anxiety he's feeling now and takes Suzu out for a walk. After all, he's got to prep her to lose another home now, something he's honestly grown tired of. That was the plan at least, but Suzu conks out like a light bulb on his back, and now is left alone with Satsuki because of course the no boundaries having stalker would follow them. As the two talk, Satsuki gets mad at Nao for trying to hide the reason for his living situation from her. Luckily, the dude's a total bottom. A little push from Satsuki's all it takes to make him spill. Pause? Anywho, Nao explains how their aunt's just the latest of their relatives to get stuck with them. Since Nao and Suzu's parents got married against the wishes of most of their families, none of those relatives are actually close to them or even care a whole lot. Unlike now, though, Satsuki's got enough brain cells to see things objectively and not through the lens of depressed overthinking. She points out that his aunt's more than just the next in line. After all, she's actually being nice to him and Suzu since they've been with her. And she even let them use her backyard for their garden. None of that sounds like someone who'd kick them out over a misunderstanding. With a parting shot about moving in with her if things really do go south, Satsuki leaves Nao to think about things. Sometime later, Suzu wakes up and Nao steals his resolve. He promises never to leave her alone, but if he's going to do that, he has to make sure she can live a good life. With his mind made up, Nao returns to his aunt Tamayo's home, set on apologizing to her and making things right. Unfortunately for him, he's got anime protagonist luck, which means he ends up in the perfect spot for said aunt to walk out of the bath naked and bump into him. Guess their old place must have been in Alabama. Still, Nao's determined to see this through. After Tamayo closes the bathroom door to save her own dignity, Naoto gets on his knees and launches into a speech about how much they like living here with her, all the ways they can help each other, and how she's the only one who treated them like actual people. On the other side of the door, Tamayo's actually kind of moved, especially considering she was never really going to kick them out in the first place. After a short explanation about how he and Satsuki actually aren't together, Nao lets slip that he doesn't feel he can afford to waste time on stuff like that when he's got Suzu to take care of. Tamayo just seems thoughtful when he says that, but keeps quiet about it. She doesn't really keep quiet when he brings up his dad, though, who was Tamayo's brother. The lady seems to really hate that guy. Not sure what's that about. The next morning, the siblings head to school with Satsuki following as usual. At this point, her stocking's just their daily normal, though the three do look like a little family of their own from the outside. Later that day, Suzu and Nao are taking care of the garden when the older boy brings up a test she bombed at school. Of course, with how fully Suzu's got her brother wrapped around her finger, even if she doesn't know it, she walks away from it with a reward instead. More time with her big brother in the form of tutoring, starting to think these two are dangerously codependent. But what do I know? The next day at school, Ishihara's offers to have a study hangout for their upcoming exams. Despite feeling he'll just slow her down since she's a lot smarter, Nao tells her he'll think about it as she leaves. Oh, and his friend Tokoi teases him about how he might actually have a shot with his crush after all, or he might be being genuine. Hard to get a read on that guy. Very blank face. Internally, though, Nao can only think about how Suzu would never allow him to be alone with a girl, which is kind of weird to be honest. When it's time to head home, Nao ends up being stuck inside because of the heavy rain, which he just happens to be defenseless against. Luckily, Satsuki offers up her own umbrella, telling him she's got a spare in her locker. And so the suspected siscon heads home, only to find Suzu isn't back yet. Worried about her being out in the rain, Nao looks for her raincoat so he can go take it to her, only to find something else instead. A crumpled up math test hidden in the back of the closet that Suzu scored a full 100 on. Right as Nao's wondering what that's about, Suzu walks in, revealing that she's totally fine. She's just late because a friend at school didn't have an umbrella, so she walked him home before coming back herself. Worryingly enough, this seems to send Nao into a sudden depression, which really doesn't help with these siscon allegations. Is bro jealous right now? Without saying too much more, Nao tells Suzu he's got to head to the convenience store and steps out of the house. As he's walking, Nao starts questioning his entire worldview. Until now, everything he's done has revolved around the idea that Suzu needs him, that he has to do everything to keep her happy, that she's a hopeless little kid who isn't growing up. But is that really true? From everything he's learned today, it looks like she's forcing herself to keep from growing up. Also, he has the chance to keep dotting on her. Right as his mind's about to short-circuit, Nao runs into Satsuki. As it turns out, she didn't have a spare umbrella at all. She just wanted to help him out in facing her for lying. Nao realizes something. Suzu's not the one scared of her growing up and things changing. He is. Coming to his senses, Nao throws his raincoat over Satsuki and walks her to her place, which turns out to be a pretty rundown apartment. More concerning, though, is that it's just a 3-minute walk from his place, not exactly how close you want to be to your actual stalker. After pulling Nao into her apartment, since she lives alone, Satsuki decides to give him a wake-up call. Through a quick lecture and some precise words she manages to make, Nao realizes something, that he's been using his dynamic with Suzu as an excuse. An excuse to not have to deal with other people, to not live his own life. to not have to worry about anything but her. But that can't last. Like Satsuki says, he has to do things for himself too. He doesn't necessarily deny it, but he does get mad at Satsuki and storms out. But on his way home, alone with his thoughts, he's forced to accept that Satsuki wasn't wrong. After all, even now he's using Suzu as an excuse not to take the leap with Ishihara. That evening, Nao returns home with snacks for Suzu and decides to have a talk with her. Right on the front porch, he smiles at his sister and tells her he'd like to study with a friend this weekend. Of course, Suzu's quick to point out that he's already promised to tutor her that day, but Nao's ready for that. He mentions how they can always fit that in before and after he goes out, or even just to do it another day. After all, if her math test's any sign, she's pretty smart when she actually tries. Not wanting to lose her time with her brother, Suzu starts crying about how that's not true and she can't do anything without him there. Unfortunately for both siblings, that's where the conversation ends, because Nao made the grave mistake of being out in the rain in an anime, which means he's now instantly sick, because plot. And so Nao finds himself in forced bed rest the next morning, with Suzu refusing to leave his side, or his front in this case. Luckily, Nao is able to convince her to at least go to school. That buys him a few hours of peace and quiet, but it doesn't last, because next he's woken by Satsuki being pressed up to him in his own futon, completely ignoring every boundary in the book. Turns out she feels bad since he technically got sick because of her. As an apology, she's brought him some medicine, and the fact that it's anal suppositories is definitely not a sign that she wants to peg him. No, sir, not at all. After a few minutes of being very thoroughly embarrassed by Satsuki and her double-meaning sentences, Nao's literally saved by the bell and goes to answer it. Good news, Ishihara's here to check on him after hearing he's sick. Bad news, Ishihara's here while Satsuki's literally in his bed. More good news, his crush is asking to cook some healthy food for him in his own kitchen, giving him time to go to his room and get Satsuki the hell out of there. Bad news, Satsuki's raunchy as hell and ends up teasing him for so long that Ishihara comes up with the food before she leaves. The result? Her hiding under Nao's blanket while he prays to God that Ishihara doesn't realize what's happening. There's no way this ends well. With Satsuki under his sheets, Ichihara looking like she's about to see the truth and not really thinking about what he's doing, now unintentionally humps the ever-loving crap out of his childhood friend while being on top of her under the blanket. In the absolute fuster-cluck of a situation, now pretty much gets Satsuki off, gives himself a heart attack, and convinces Ishihara that's having a stroke all in one. Luckily for Nao's sanity, Ishihara decides to leave after serving him some porridge and claiming it'll help him get better. Unknown to him, Ishihara ends up at a shrine afterwards to pray for a chance to get with his ass. Completely unaware of his apparently killer Riz, Nao just thanks the Lord for a chance to eat his crush's home cooking, until said cooking nearly kills him from how damn spicy it is. At least I think so, although it could just suck doo-doo as well. Either way, the porridge screws with Nao's body so badly that it basically resets, unbothered by something as lame as rain in the face of surviving food from hell. While he experiences that highly unusual recovery method, Satsuki runs into Suzu as she cleans the weeds out of their garden. As the kid starts working alongside Satsuki, she spills everything that's been worrying her recently when it comes to Nao. Specifically, she's worried that her brother is going to get tired of her or stop liking her if she admits that she's capable of taking care of herself. Luckily for Suzu, Satsuki's pretty quick to assure her that her brother is not, in fact, an alpha male podcast bro. Of course, he'll still love her even if she's more than a damsel in distress for him to save. As everything they've talked about catches up to Suzu and makes her feel embarrassed and shy all in one, she gets up to run away from Satsuki, but not before asking something important. See, when Satsuki messed up their garden back home 6 years ago, Suzu remembers being there. She remembers how sad her brother was, but most importantly, she remembers following after Satsuki and seeing her being praised by someone for what she did. Surprisingly, not only does Satsuki instantly go into full denial, she even gaslights Suzu into believing that she remembers the situation wrong. After all, there was no one there with her, so surely she wouldn't tell Nao something that's not even true, right? As it happens, though, Suzu's never once brought it up to Nao for her own reasons, which she now realizes were rooted in selfishness. After all, back when they were all kids, she remembers feeling left out when Nao started spending more time with Satsuki. So when Satsuki did something that broke her heart, Suzu's tiny little kid brain told her it was the perfect chance to become Nao's best friend instead and get all of his attention. All she had to do was let him think Satsuki ruined their garden because of something stupid or petty, and not for what could be a deeper reason. Feeling guilty about her silence, Suzu decides to support her brother in living his own life outside of taking care of her. First order of action on the agenda for that, getting dressed for school by herself the next morning and letting Nao know that he doesn't have to keep giving her all of his attention as if she's helpless. Make no mistake though, she still wants plenty of pampering when he's free. Despite being both happy and a little confused by Suzu's words that morning, the rest of his day at school is pretty crummy. After all, he can't bring himself to face Ishihara after basically humping another girl right in front of her, even if she doesn't have a clue that happened. Paired with practically every guy in class giving him crap about having a hopelessly one-sided crush on the school's most popular girl, Nao's a hair away from a full-blown crash-out. Also fan service frame, because hot damn! That evening, Nao's walking home when he spots Ishihara talking to some slightly older guys from another school. While Ishihara talks them into leaving her alone, Nao goes into a downward spiral over how there's no way she doesn't already have a boyfriend. I mean, good lord, dude, get a grip! To his surprise, Ishihara actually spots him and calls over, making an offer that shocks him. How do you like to do that studying together thing they've talked about right now? Even though he's half a second from passing out, Nao manages to squeak out a yes. And the next thing he knows, they're at the school library together. And boy, is it one hell of a study session, because Nao gets to learn some really important stuff about how Ishihara views him. For as long as she can remember, guys have seen her as nothing more than a hot piece of ass to perv over, like a bunch of rotten degenerates. And yet, Nao is completely different. In fact, the very first memory she has of him is when he accidentally walked in on her changing in an empty classroom. And yet, back then, he was so focused on finding out where Suzu had wandered off that he didn't even register her state, just rushing off to keep looking for her. As ridiculous and funny as it is, she appreciates that he's driven by more than just his monkey brain. To Nao, he can't work out if he's being praised, admired, or friend-zoned right now, even if he doesn't appreciate her words either way. Later that evening, Nao talks about the whole exchange with his friend Tokoe and Satsuki, who tagged along at the last second without them knowing. Because of course that's what Stalker Central would do. While Nao doesn't want to get his hopes up, he can't really help it when Tokoe, Ishihara's childhood friend, who knows her best, tells him that he might have a chance. That night, all Nao can think about while cramming for his upcoming tests is Ishihara, and considering how late it is, those thoughts turn spicy pretty fast. A shame to think of her like that after what she just told him earlier in the day. Nao tries to think of anything else. Unfortunately, anything else happens to be that extreme foreplay session with Satsuki from the other morning. Truly, little is worse than being a hormonal teenager with a crush. Unfortunately for Nao, there's a little demon that sleeps right next to him that's absolutely disgusted at hearing his pervy ramblings about both girls. The next day, Nao's still completely checked out thanks to embarrassment over Suzu hearing his thoughts. So depressed is he that the idiot totally spaced out while watering the garden and ended up hosing down Satsuki. And boy, does the visual that comes from that make his situation that much harder. In more ways than one, if you catch my drift. At the very least, that seems to knock Nao out of his slump by the time they go to school. That doesn't last long, though, because Satsuki sees fit to inform him that she threw her clothes from this morning in the dryer at his place, which would mean she's only wearing her uniform right now, as in only her uniform, with nothing underneath. And when you're wearing a skirt, that is not a good idea. At least, that's the conclusion Nao comes to. But Satsuki just goes along with it and teases him about how she'll be fine since they just had to sit through their test today and nothing else. Just moments later, they join up with Ishihara, who walks with Nao while Satsuki moves up ahead. As they're walking, Nao's fully focused on Satsuki, terrified that she'll be embarrassed to death if the wind flips up her skirt or anything like that. Unnoticed by him, Ishihara sees his sights glued on her and has her insecurities fueled further. Considering everything she's seen them doing, and even the stuff she hasn't seen, the girl's worried she might lose her chance with him. And so she shoots her shot and asks Nao if he wants to hang out sometime soon. Not to study, not for the committee, just to be together. This is everything Nao could ever hope for. Unfortunately, Mother Nature's a real bitch sometimes, and she sends a gust of wind through a window at that exact moment. Instantly, Nao's focus shifts to Satsuki's skirt moving upwards. In that split second, without even thinking, he leaps at her and grabs Satsuki in a hug, holding her skirt down in the process. That takes care of the problem, and at the same time creates two new ones. Everyone around them, including Ishihara, is convinced these two are a thing now. Honestly, how else could you explain that? But even worse, it turns out he didn't even need to do that, since Satsuki's wearing a pair of his boxers, so she was never in any danger to begin with. As he curses his luck for everything that's happened, Nao completely misses the massive blush and smile on Satsuki's face, touched that he'd go so far for her. Before any of them know it, a full week goes by after that incident, and Nao hasn't managed to interact with Ishihara at all over that time. The only plus side is that exams are over now, but even that's dulled by the fact that the whole school now thinks he's dating Satsuki. Enter the ultimate wingman, Tokoe, who proceeds to organize a beach trip for the whole class. So Nao and Ishihara have another shot. Unfortunately, he's a pretty decent dude, which means he's not gonna just leave Satsuki out of this while everyone else is having fun. Which brings us to Nao's newest challenge, going to the beach with both the girl he likes and the stalker that won't leave him alone. Lucky bastard. That night, Nao heads home with a whole extra headache to deal with on top of everything else. The beach trip is in 2 full days, which means he's got to explain to Suzu that he'll be gone for that time. Honestly, considering how mad he expects her to be, he might just have to take her on the trip with him. So much for getting it on with his crush. However, Lady Luck finally smiles on Nao when he gets home because, as it turns out, Suzu has a beach field trip organized by her own school this weekend that she's got the same worries as Nao about. Recognizing this for the perfect opportunity that it is, Nao tells her it's all good since they'll both be having fun with their friends. Of course, Suzu even more of a bro-con than Nao is a sis-con, and she instantly starts whining about how she wants to go with him. Luckily, Nao is able to convince her it's important not to miss out on school activities and settle her down. Later, the two talk about getting their aunt to water the garden while they're gone, because that's just an absolutely wonderful idea. Finally, Suzu makes her peace with the 2 days they'll be apart, but only under one condition. Nao has to go swimsuit shopping with her tomorrow. The next morning, Nao's still reeling over the insane demand that he's now agreed to. How the hell is he supposed to go shopping for swimsuits with his little sister? He's way too much of an introvert for that crap. Luckily for him, Lady Luck is feeling extra generous today and extra blonde because she comes in the form of Satsuki, who offers to go shopping with them, so Nao doesn't have to be there by himself. Any other day of the week, he'd tell her to take a hike, but Nao's honestly pretty relieved by her offer and agrees. The only problem is Ishihara overheard all of that, and that's really not helping with the rumors about these two dating. That evening after school, Nao, Suzu, and Satsuki head to the mall to check out swimsuits. What follows is a feast for the eyes, featuring anime girl honkers and butts that is 100% not appropriate for YouTube, which means it's even less appropriate for Nao's poor virgin brain, which is on the edge of short-circuiting. Meanwhile, unnoticed by any of them, Ishihara's been spying on them to get a swimsuit. Nao would like... And let's just say, she definitely succeeds there. And finally, since it's legally required for any decent rom-com anime's MC to walk in on his love interest naked, Nao proceeds to do just that by accident. Luckily, Satsuki doesn't make a scene about it or anything, but it's pretty clear he's all the way pissed off. Wanting to apologize properly, Nao goes after her and tries to explain, only to realize Satsuki's embarrassed, not mad. Apparently, getting walked in on is a whole lot more embarrassing than flashing the same guy at every chance you get. Luckily, they're able to make up, but the scene definitely gives off a vibe that Nao doesn't mean for it to. And even worse, Ishihara sees them in that moment, further confirming the rumors in her mind. On the train ride home, Nao and Satsuki talk about everything that's happened between them, and Satsuki admits that she's happy to just watch him from a distance. And anytime he needs help, she'll come running. Hearing this almost pushes Nao to say something that he's been holding back, but he stops. After all, even the relationship they have now after 6 years apart is a rocky one. If he pushes too much, he might just ruin it all. Later, as the group exits the train, they actually run into Ishihara. At this point, Ishihara's feelings finally come to a breaking point, and she blurts out a question. Are Nao and Satsuki dating? Obviously, Nao does his best to explain that's not the case, since Ishihara's the one he actually likes. Unfortunately, even he can't deny it believably once Ishihara lays out all the things she's seen them doing, like that kiss in his backyard. Thankfully, Satsuki's much better under pressure than Nao. In one quick move, she steps forward, smooches Ishihara, and claims that that's just how people greet each other in her culture. It's not a romantic thing at all to her. So yeah, they're not dating. And as much as that's absolute cap, Ishihara buys it. With that, Nao's able to save his chances with his crush, while Satsuki takes Suzu to get a drink. Before they part ways, he decides to reassure her one last time. He tells her that he's honestly truly looking forward to spending time with her at the beach. And so the day of the beach trip arrives, and Nao has no damn clue how to even begin to approach Ishihara. All he can do is stand there on the edge of having a frickin' anxiety attack, because what the hell do people even do in groups? He's never done something like this before, damn it. Luckily for Nao, Satsuki provides the perfect distraction when she starts crushing the hand of a buff dude that was trying to hit on her. Seeing his chance, Nao grabs her and races off to a quieter part of the beach, acting like he's trying to get her out of trouble. Which he is, to be fair. He's just doing it to save himself, too. Now alone, the two bicker a bit before having a more serious talk. Here, Nao learns that Satsuki's even worse socially than him. According to her, she never used to go to school very much, and she always skipped physical classes, so she doesn't even know how to swim. Feeling upset for his friend and guilty at how he hasn't even thought about what she must have gone through these past 6 years, Nao speaks up. He's just about to make an offer to go in the water with Satsuki to teach her when Tokoi pulls up. Intentionally or not, he completely breaks up the moment the two are having and does his duty as the ultimate wingman. He's managed to land now a one-on-one shopping trip with Ishihara. All he has to do is take the list Tokoi's made and get on his way with his crush. As happy as he is about this, though, Nao still promises Satsuki to help her out with the whole swimming thing later, something which makes her very happy. And so Nao finds himself walking along the local market with a very sexily dressed Ishihara. It's a miracle he hasn't passed out via nosebleed yet. But if he was feeling nervous before, it's nothing compared to how he feels after opening Tokoi's shopping list. Because the only thing written on there is an order for the two of them to grab a meal together and have a nice date. Ultimate wingman indeed. Meanwhile, back at the beach, Satsuki and Tokoi have a short conversation that hints at something more. Specifically, the possibility that Tokoi and Satsuki both have a crush on Ishihara and Nao respectively. And so the love rectangle is set into motion. Or, not really, but it's on the table now. Back with Ishihara and Nao, they manage to have a really good time and learn more about each other, even if Nao does come pretty close to a heart attack a couple of times. After sharing a cup of shaved ice and getting looks from everyone around them, though, something goes terribly wrong. Some of the guys nearby are trying to hit on Ishihara, make some really insulting comments about how she's probably for the streets. Nao knows how she's had to deal with people spreading rumors about her in the past, decides it's time for them to go. Taking Ishihara by the hand, she leads her away from the beach. On their way back to the rest of the group, Nao decides he has to say something to let Ishihara know how awesome he thinks she is. That, however, ends up with him stuttering out a bunch of awkward compliments and totally embarrassing himself, at least in his mind. But Ishihara's overjoyed to hear that her crush likes her too. Good things just can't seem to last, though. In the middle of the moment they're sharing, an older man appears behind them, referring to Ishihara by her first name. This man, Fujioka, makes a bunch of comments about Ishihara's new appearance, says he didn't expect to see her again for a few more years, and then pisses off with his buddy. At first, it seems like a harmless thing, like it's pretty weird. What an interaction. But from how Ishihara's eyes have become completely lifeless and terrified, it's obvious there's something more to this. Fujioka's done something to her in the past, and it's left her completely traumatized to this day. What is it that this bastard did? What is Ishihara's relationship with him? Will Nao ever manage to nut up and be a man? Will Tokoi and Satsuki ever be able to do anything about their silent crushes? Well, we'll have to find out next time on Watari Ball Z.